I just have to start off by saying our guild OnlySands was the very first guild to the Deep Desert in the entire Dune Awakening launch. If you're new around here, we are doing a Dune Awakening game giveaway and you do not want to miss out on it. All you have to do to be eligible is be a subscriber to this YouTube channel and like this video. To participate, just join the Discord link below. We quickly crafted our first ornithopter and then headed straight towards the wall. You'd think you'd get some kind of cinematic or anything like that, but no, you literally just go bump off this big blue wall and it'll put you into a loading screen. Once done, you'll head to the overworld map where you can actually visit Harko, Arrakis, or even go straight towards the Deep Desert. Even though you hypothetically flew into the Deep Desert, whenever it spawns you in, your ornithopter is just sitting in the sand in front of you and you're standing next to it. In my opinion, that's pretty lame, and I think that they should just make it to where you can fly straight through with no cutscenes if possible. As it's been discussed before, when you first load in, the entire southern part of the Deep Desert is actually fully PvE, except for the handful of shipwrecks, of course. The Deep Desert consists of 81 grids, and whenever you use your probe, it'll only unlock one of the grids at a time. This means to fully probe an entire Deep Desert on one run, you'll need 81 probes and about 2 probe guns. The PvE portion of the wall is actually divided into 3 separate walls, and you can either fly across a PvP zone to get to the other wall, or you can go back into the overworld map and go into one of the other entrances. There's a total of 3 main entrances that you can come and go from the Deep Desert. If you're trying to avoid PvP altogether, going back in the overworld map is your better option. As mentioned earlier, the PvE wall does have some shipwrecks, which these locations are PvP enabled. The loot inside these shipwrecks though is definitely worth it. The currency and the loot drops are a lot different out here than it is in Haga Basin. If you're stuck or stranded in the Deep Desert, you can actually come to one of these locations with a tent and actually fly back to Haga. The PvE portion of Deep Desert also has a ton of these labs scattered throughout the entire wall, so you definitely have plenty of things to do and just keep looting these things over and over. It seems there's a large pool of loot and it varies which one you might get each time you run the lab. Most of these POIs seem to be on a 45-minute respawn. Scanning the Deep Desert with probes gives you 100 XP per tile. This means you could potentially earn 8,100 XP every time you fully clear the entire Deep Desert. That's pretty much it for the PvE wall. Now we're going to head out into the PvP zone, which means dropping off the edge of the cliff. You're essentially PvE safe as long as you're on top of this rock, but as soon as you start to come off of it, you'll notice at the top of your screen it'll say PvP. And once you're out here, it's literally everything goes. You could be blasted immediately by 20 people, or you can make it all the way to your destination and back with never being seen. And as you can see, the Deep Desert is an insanely vast location. If you come across these bubbles, they're actually capture points for the Landrad, but you have to be pledged to one of the factions to be able to participate. It feels so eerie knowing I'm quite literally the only person in the entire Deep Desert right now. One thing to keep in mind is if you come out into the PvP zone, to always have a respawn point on the shield wall. The further north you go into the Deep Desert, the better the loot gets for the most part. As you're probing and discovering the different tiles, you'll notice that labs and stuff will be uncovered. You can actually go loot those with your friends and uncover really good loot. The cool thing about the labs is they actually change locations each week, so sometimes they might be closer to the shield wall and other times they might be really far out deep into the Deep Desert. And just remember, when you get off of the shield wall, you're in full PvP and there's no going back unless you quite literally turn around and go back to the shield wall. There's 2 ores in the Deep Desert that you cannot get in Haga Basin. One of them is titanium ore, and this is what it looks like. The other is called stradvium, and this is what it looks like right here. And just remember, even if you're not into PvP, people will eventually post these on the marketplace, so you'll be able to just buy them off the marketplace in full PvE protection. As I was flying, I got a sandstorm warning, so I had to duck down and find some cover. It is possible to fly in the sandstorms, but if you do, it'll really mess up your wings and your ornithopter pretty quickly. It's best just to land and find some cover until it passes. I can just imagine the epic battles that are going to happen during the storm. I think it's going to be super sick. Once it finally does pass, you can just hop back in your vehicle and head on and continue on with what you were doing. You'll be flying around and then all of a sudden you'll see it for the first time. It's what everybody is after, the ringmouth spice plume. This will be what every guild is contesting. This will be what every guild is trying to deny and what every guild is trying to farm. The size of this thing is really hard to tell until you fully land on it. One of these ringmouths have about 250,000 spice sand in it, and this will obviously be a location where crawlers are going to be running rampant. You can hand farm it, use the static compactors, or of course the crawler. I don't recommend hand farming, it sucks. In the Deep Desert, you'll find the small spice plumes like in the Haga Basin. You'll actually find medium ones out here as well, and then of course the ringmouth. The same crash ships that can't drive in Haga also can't drive in the Deep Desert. So these things are out here crashing everywhere. The only difference is out here in the Deep Desert, the loot is much better. The further you go north into the Deep Desert, you might have a chance of finding a cluster island of stradvium and titanium. And these are essentially just big islands filled with those ores. When you first spawn into the Deep Desert, you're obviously on the very far south side, but you might be wondering what happens if you try to exit on the far north, east, or west side of the map. Spoiler, you can't. There's literally just a big blue pinta wall that you bump off of whenever you try to go into it. So if you're coming in or out of the Deep Desert, you have to to go down to the south, so don't get pinched in a corner and get killed during PvP. When leaving the deep desert, you just exit the same way that you came in. This is just my basic deep desert guide, and I plan on doing a really in-depth one in the future. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss out. Thank you guys for watching.